Hey guys, what's up? I'm Sean, and today this is my video essay talking about the implications of social media and ethics on politics and entertainment. So, to dive in first, the two ethics frameworks I'm going to talk about are egoism and virtue ethics. And you're probably wondering, what is a virtue ethic or what are ethics? Ethics are the principles or morals that you believe in, and there's certain frameworks that describe each set of morals. So to dive first, at least once in your life, or right now, you have a social media app that you use to discover entertainment, stay updated on the news, follow your friends, be a part of fandoms. And in those posts you see on social media, you see different types of fandoms, either people who stand or like the fans of the people, or people who hate on them. You get on social media, you get both polar opposites. You can also see that with politics, Democrats and Republicans. So, you're probably wondering, what does this have to deal with your politics and entertainment? Well, virtue ethics, or ethics in general, make up everything we see on our social media and the internet around us. So to describe virtue ethics are you doing things not because it's deemed right by others, but because you feel deeply that it is right to do, and you're doing it as a choice. They're considered chivalrous actions. So, all my quotes will be done on the iPad right next to me to show you. This is from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Virtue Ethics. To quote it, the honest person recognizes that To quote it, it would say, the honest person recognizes that would be a lie as a strong, though perhaps not overriding reason for not making certain statements in certain circumstances, and gives due, but not overriding weight to that would be the truth as the reason for making them. To explain it more simpler, it's you still are allowed to make lies, but you have to weigh it in the comparison to the truth. So which one would be better in the moment rather than you just doing it for fun? So a little fib here and there doesn't mean you are not following virtue ethics. It means you are actually following them because you are making the conscious choice of weighing either. Will this be worse if I tell the truth, or will this be worse if I lie? We can see this in social media with politicians and celebrities that hide certain truths of their lives for the betterment of their people or perhaps themselves. I feel like this also could be strongly related towards the election, in which how people are often dishonest. And I got mine from the Brookings.edu. Again, a source. And it dived into the disinformation about politics, and specifically is focused on the internal politics of America, and focuses on the most recent presidential election we had, and how people are often accusing each other, or candidates themselves, accusing each other of voting fraud. And we can see in one instance that an AI video was used of a Haitian man in particular, so a minority, saying that he voted in 2 counties, which sparked outrage in the community, but turns out it was a lie made by a deepfake AI company to sprout tension within the communities. Our whole society is built on this idea that secrets are meant to be kept in the dark and not to be seen, which creates bigger issues that it leads to the build-up, and they aren't following the virtue ethics that we should be following in general. In an interesting way, this can be taken about how virtue ethics take control of the modern world right now through conversations of the idea of the Batman and Joker. The University of Texas brings up a good point in it. what is written, but a virtue ethics would highlight the character of the person who kills the Joker. Does Batman want to be the kind of person to take the enemy's lives? No, in fact, he doesn't. This sprouts on the idea you don't cause harm to somebody to end the problem. You focus on the mediation of it. The virtue ethics is a complete compilation of choices that bring you to a decision you must make. You make the choice to troll. You make the choice to lie. We all make these choices, and yet when everything ends, we are left with the final decision to make. Virtue ethics is tied deeply into our society where we are growing up and learning these morals and choices to make, where we go on our own, and we have to make these decisions at the end on what we must live with. Now, on the second ethics framework that's brought up, it's egoism. Egoism stems around the idea of your own self. It's the highest priority of them all. No one else matters in your life but yourself. It's all about you. So do what you must do to succeed. The automatic thought that pops in your brain when you search up egoism is often the automatic thought that pops in your brain when you hear the phrase egoism. We can see an idea of the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Which wrote, a common objection to the psychological egoism made famously by Joseph Butler is that I must desire things other than my own welfare in order to get welfare. Relating to this idea to trolling is that when you desire to cause harm to others, it allows you to feel entertainment. You desire another object that fulfills your own welfare without focusing on just yourself. Not even in trolling, we have all been stuck in the idea that we do not owe anyone anything, which allows us to put up this defensive front. We reject the desire of welfare, in which turn does not allow us to receive welfare. It is an idea that forces people to stop thinking of egoism as only an act of self-interest, but in the act of needing something to feel welfare. It should be what needed to be felt to better help society. Yet, there's often an idea that egoism is not taught up in a branch that relates, and it's ethical egoism. The idea that even within your own self-interest, you have the desire to either help someone or hurt someone. An article written by the University of London says, for an ethical egoist, the motivation to help family members and friends is one's personal choice connection to them and distress that would be caused by their misfortune or suffering. We are all selfish in some way. We do things out of our own self-interest to feel better. The idea of taking your family out to dinner to satisfy your own personal collection between them can be deemed selfish. However, it can be viewed as a way that is not. We often see this in politics on social media, which candidates or supporters begin to argue with one another to support their candidate or belief. We can see that they're only using their own self-interest of belief in the candidate to back up the candidate itself. Yet, it also seems that they have a parasocial connection to the political figure that they are willing to defend and put their reputation on the line to protect them. We can't bring egoism just to selfishness when there's a whole other branch of egoism that focuses on helping others. Another way that I think it's also used in which egoism and virtue ethics play is the use of generative AI, again, in which creating problems between communities by telling people the wrong information, while also at some point giving people who are minorities to be heard, such as non-English speakers. So the egoism in you would say, using AI to help yourself, to create your life easier, is selfish, but it turns out you're helping non-English speakers gather information and be able to communicate with others much more easily, and forcing the implementation of media literacy in younger generations. That can be also used in egoism. Egoism and virtue ethics focus on the idea that you are making these choices based on your own decision, and they can either help people or be on your own benefit. And this can be a lot seen within the politics of America, and we can see that in our voting from the University of South California, that disinformation is beginning to show the divide in politics within the United States and causing people to have malice towards each party. While the use of AI, which is considered automation, and we talked about earlier, using their own self-interest, is allowing people access to information across the web, it is often not fact-checked. And people are getting misinformation and falsified information made by users. And it's spread across apps to the point that people often don't know what's real or not. And now you're wondering, Sean, have you forgotten about the entertainment? No, I have not. In specific, let's bring up in one word, the K-pop fandom. I'm using a thesis wrote by a student at the University of Indonesia who conducted research on across platforms about fandoms or K-pop fandoms, and how each group has their separate fandoms, and how bias or fighting is often done against each other to put the two groups against each other. People compare their favorites, bias, and their terms to other groups and begin to tell each other that one of them copied the other, creating discourse amongst the fans. People will do anything to defend their idols, such as parasocialism, which create fan wars, which are out of egoism yet again, you being selfish and acting in your own self-interest to protect others. We always focus on the political sphere of these problems, but never on the actual entertainment sphere, which is where mostly problems arise and we interact with them. Within both virtue ethics and egoism highlights different aspects of how people troll, both on an individual perspective and in a group way. Similarities that egoism and virtue ethics have is that they both all relate to the choices that you make. You are the one who makes the decision, not anyone else. Whether this is for your own selfish need or to help others, they all accumulate into what you are. So when you're trolling on social media, you're either doing it out of your own decision to feel as if you're making a difference in changing perspectives, or out of your own primal need to feel satisfaction. They are highlighted very differently because of how each ethic group forms on either choices leading to the decision or defending something out of the need to feel right, which can be considered selfish, but it helps the person they are defending. They are similar in this concept because of the decision being made, which boils all down to ethics. Comparing the two, you can think of them as opposite sides of the same scale. One is working for the decision that you make of your own self, while the other one focuses on decisions you help yourself, whether it's for others or just yourself. It is a balance in social media spectrum it is a balance to make sure that you are using both ethics while you post or interact with people on social media. With all that said, the best framework to fit the situation of both politics and entertainment is both. Virtue ethics focus on the decisions that you make, such as what you post or troll, which makes up your account, while egoism is how you decide that those choices are on whatever best for you. Ethics is what defines everything that we are human. Ethics is what defines everything that makes us human, and how we make our choices from there. Ethics is what defines everything that makes us human, and how each of our own choices are based off of them, even unknowingly. It is better for us to know about these frameworks in situations like these, which result in trolling and how they begin to shape ourselves. But I hope you got something out of today, and thank you. Peace out.